Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to be covering triangles, so the types of triangles, congruent triangles, the angles in the triangle, all of it. Okay, to start, we're going to do the types of triangles. So we're going to cover first 4 types of triangles, and then we're going to do another different 3 types of triangles. Okay, so the first 4 we're going to discuss have to do with their angles. So an acute triangle, so this is an acute triangle, is when there are 3 acute angles. So an acute angle is when the angles are less than 90 degrees. So all 3 of these are all less than 90 degrees. Then we have an equiangular triangle, which is when there's 3 congruent acute angles. Remember, they have to add up to 180. So one example of this is if all the angles were 60 degrees. That's an equiangular triangle. Then we have an obtuse triangle, which is when there's one obtuse angle. So in this one, this is the obtuse angle, and these 2 are acute. And then a right triangle is when there's one 90-degree angle. And normally, if you're given a picture of a triangle and it wants you to know it's a right triangle, it'll have this little box where the 90-degree angle is. Okay, so here we're going to do an example first. So with this triangle here, there's a 70-degree angle, another 70-degree angle, and a 40-degree angle. So this, out of these 4 up here, which triangle would it be? So we can already take out obtuse and right because there's no 90-degree angle and there's no obtuse angle. So is it equiangular? No, because they're not all 3 the same angle. So this one's an acute triangle. Okay, our next one, we have a 90, 30, and 60. So none of them are obtuse, so it's not going to be obtuse. But since we have a 90-degree angle right here, it's going to be a right triangle. So this is a right triangle. Okay, our next 3 triangles we have are based off of their sides. So the first 4 are based off their angles, and these 3 are based off their sides. So an equilateral triangle is when all 3 sides of the triangle are congruent, so they're the same. An isosceles triangle is when at least 2 of the sides are congruent. So here, these 2 are congruent. And to show that sides are congruent, we put these lines. So here, each of these had 1 line because to show that they're all congruent. And here we put 2 to show that those 2 are congruent. Okay, our last type of triangle here is a scalene triangle. A scalene triangle is when there are no congruent sides. So you can see that none of these sides are congruent. First, because none of them look equal, but sometimes you can't always go off the picture. But also because there are none of these symbols that show that they're congruent. So this is a scalene triangle. Okay, now we're going to talk about the angles. So the angles in a triangle have to equal 180. So the measure of angle A, B, and C, if you add them all up, it has to equal 180 in order for it to be a triangle. For this, if you have this triangle and the line comes out, if you add the measure of angle A and angle B, it's going to equal the measure of angle 1 right there. Because think about this. This plus this plus this has to equal 180. And this angle plus this angle is also equal to 180 since it's on the line. So if you add these 2, it's going to be equal to this angle right there. Okay. There can only be 1 obtuse or 1 right angle in a triangle. You can never have 2 obtuse angles or 2 right angles in a triangle. And acute angles in a right triangle are complementary, which means they add up to 90 degrees. So if we go back here, this angle and this angle, those will add up to 90 degrees because 90 plus 90 is 180. You already have 90 right there. Okay. Now we're going to look at congruency. So for congruency, triangles are congruent if the corresponding parts of the triangles are also congruent. So here let's see if this triangle and this triangle, if they're congruent. So that means angle A would have to be congruent to angle H because they have to look similar. So these 2 are congruent, and you can see because this has 3 lines and this has 3 lines. So when they're on the inside, that's showing that the angles are congruent, but right here, this would show that the sides are congruent. So that means we have to check that angle B is also congruent to angle J, and they are. Okay, angle C is congruent to angle K. So we're good on the angles so far, but now we gotta check on the sides. So side AB is congruent to side HJ, which is good. So now we have side BC has to be congruent to JK, which it is. And then AC has to be congruent to HK, which it also is. So that means triangle ABC is congruent to triangle HJK. And this right here, this symbol means congruent. So all of these symbols here mean congruent. So if two angles of a triangle are congruent to two angles of a second triangle, then you automatically know that the third angles are congruent. Okay, now here, we're going to discuss how to also determine if it's congruent. So there's one way is by side, 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 which is also SSS, which means that if side AB, using these two triangles, if side AB is congruent to DE, BC is congruent to EF, and AC is congruent to DF, then that means that triangle ABC and triangle DEF are congruent. That's using side, side, side. So now we're going to talk about side, angle, side, which is SAS. So that's if side AB is congruent to DE, angle B is congruent to angle E, and side BC is congruent to EF. Then that means that these two triangles are congruent. So how you can use this is, so this side and this side, and the angle that it makes between those two lines, if that's congruent to this side and that angle, then they're congruent. So it has to be the angle that's in between the two lines. So it can't be side AB, side BC, and then angle A. It has to be the angle in the middle of those two sides. Okay, our next one we're going to do is angle, side, angle, which is ASA. So that's if angle A is congruent to angle D, and side AB is congruent to side DE, and then angle B is congruent to angle E. So this one is when you have the angle, side, and then the angle. So if you say it out loud, you have to be able to go angle, side, angle, and they have to be touching. So if that's all true, then these two triangles are congruent. Then we have angle, angle, side, which is also AAS. So that's if angle A is congruent to angle D, angle B is congruent to angle E, and side BC is congruent to side EF. And then those two triangles are congruent. So remember, so it's angle, angle, side, which is angle, angle, side. Okay, that's all for today. But if, as always, if you have questions, leave them in the comments and I will answer them.